Let me introduce our two guests. So Joanna Carr from Allegro, CX consultant and the host of the CXPod. And then her co-host Merete Medel, who's also the head of customer journey at BEAP. Welcome to the stage.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here, and thank you, Esther, for arranging such a great event. So, yeah.
Happy to hear. And hey, so like I said earlier, so Joanna and Merete are hosting the CXPod. How many are you familiar with the podcast? Quite a few fans on the stage. So if you haven't listened to it, I really recommend checking it in like some of your podcast solutions like Spotify or wherever you find your podcast. And today, usually they are the ones who are interviewing guests, but since this is JourneyOps event, we thought that, okay, let's flip the script a bit. So I will be interviewing them, and they will be reflecting from their own kind of experience working on the field, but also like from what they have heard from other people saying in this field. So this should be really kind of inspiring and insightful discussion. So I'm really looking forward to that. And let's get started. So the first question is this, that how do you define customer experience?
The big question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's start with the small one,
Yeah.
There's not really one answer to it, is it?
No, I think this is the great thing about the podcast. We have 12 standard questions, and we get very many different answers. At the same time, I think there's quite a unanimous agreement that customer experience is the quality of the interactions that the customer has across the products, the services, the brand, during the lifetime or the actual of them getting their jobs to be done. Yeah. That's like the short answer.
Yeah,
I like the long answer.
Yeah, because we could add, I mean, once you've had an interaction with a company, then you probably will or won't forget about them. But if you don't forget about them, that's also part of the customer experiences that you've had. So it's really up to you guys and us as well to sort of define what sort of experiences do we want to create. And then, but defining it as, I think, an umbrella, because we've had so many good conversations during the breaks today, but talking about the difference between customer service and customer experience, or UX design or customer experience. But we believe, I think we agree on this, that the customer experience is an overlying sort of strategy thing that includes every single touch point from A to Z and even into the future.
Yeah, and there's a difference between customer experience and customer experience management or journey management. The one is how you actually work with this. The other one is the customer's experience. And I think this is also a very important thing to think about, is that customer experience is actually two words. It's customer, and then it's almost, this is like the one thing you need to think about in your organization. Who are we referring to when we actually talk about customer? When we think about the jobs to be done methodology, then we can then think, okay, well, it's everybody that interacts with our business in order to get a job to be done. By that, it then takes us to a whole new realm, thinking, okay, we've got the customers who don't actually end up buying anything from us, but they are trying to get a job to be done when they're trying to discover whether you're a viable option. Then you've got the customers that are your internal customers. They're all your employees that all have jobs to be done in order to serve your customers well, which is why we quite often refer to this human experience, because it is actually not only buying, paying customers, but it's actually all the humans that we interact with. And then they have the experience, which is the word two, which is their own, it's of course experience through their senses, what they see, hear, feel, and based on what happens then, that will then determine what they do in the next step. Will they progress through the life cycle from discovery, evaluate, buy, use, support, return, and so
It's a big question.
It's a big
It
question.
is a big question. And what I also have seen is that it's an important question, and I think you should have a clarity within the organization. What do we mean by that?
Yes.
Because there is so many definitions. Like you mentioned, the customer service. Like some people still think that customer experience about, oh, that's the customer service part. Whereas for some, it's much more holistic. Okay, let's move on to the next topic. So we discussed about customer experience, but then who's responsible of that in the organization?
Yeah, so having, the answer to the last question in mind, you can imagine the amount of answers you can get to this one. But we've said quite a few times, like if you establish a customer experience team in the corner of the organization, you're going to get done just exactly what that corner sort of covers. So again, it's an overlying responsibility. Everybody needs to understand and breathe and live the culture of your company, and that culture needs to have some kind of touch of customer experience to it. So top management is obviously culture bearers when it comes to this. But we also see examples of companies who haven't got that sort of focus from top management, but they're still able to produce really, really customer-centric products or services. So it's hard to understand exactly where the magic sort of lies to be able to do it. But I think, and we've said this a lot of times on the podcast, would you rather have a chief customer experience officer, or would you have someone else, a chief operations officer or whatever, who's customer centric? And I would go for the second one. Like that's my conclusion. But then again, maybe in 2 weeks I'll change my mind again, because we go back and forth. So I think it's dependent on the company, the culture in the company, how big it is, how small it is, how many silos do you have. But there definitely has to be someone with the customer experience in their title and in their mandate. But we're not quite sure if they work there or there in the organization or somewhere in the middle of hopefully everywhere.
And this is a really important thing to consider as well, because organizations are very unique and different in the way that they are organized or built up. In Norway, we've got 90% small, medium businesses. So the way they organize it will, of course, be different to how an international company organizes it. But I think one of the things that often boils down to who should own it in the podcast is definitely, everybody, of course, should own how we work with customer experience, but it's the accountability that is the clue. I think it was Olga Popstava that we had an interview that, it's about the governance structure, the accountability. That is the decision that really needs to be made.
If you think about all the people that you have interviewed around this topic, and think about how many of their kind of instances is the customer experience represented in the executive team? Just out of the top of your head,
How many of them are?
All the people that you have interviewed in all their organizations that they are working on, if you think about their executive team, is the customer experience represented in the executive team? How frequent is that?
Great question.
Yeah, most of them, I think, are represented in the marketing sort of silo. If that's a good or bad thing, we haven't really. But so a lot of them have they have a mandate, they have a responsibility tied to it. But then again, it's the accountability that sometimes. So on a strategic level, I suppose they do have a very specified responsibility for CX, but it often lies within marketing. And you can, this is like Tinder, right? If you can sell your profile picture and then be as cool as you want to be on your profile, and then you go on the first date, but you have to sort of deliver. And that's what marketing does. They sort of sell the expectation to what your company is going to do for the customer. So I think it's a good thing to be represented there with customer experience, but then if you forget about the rest of the line, then you're not going to have a good second date. So
Because I think it's something to think about, because many organizations still in their strategy say that we want to be customer centric, or the customer experience is our differentiating factor. But it's very rare to have the representation in the room where the strategy is being defined.
Yeah. And I think that we come to the challenges perhaps in one of the next questions, but
Well, let's jump onto that one. So what are the challenges that these organizations who have people who have aspiration to become more customer-centric, what are the challenges that they face in them?
It is definitely, there are a lot of challenges, but probably the hugest challenge is the aspect of collaboration. We talk a lot about silos. I don't like to say breaking down the silos. Silos have a really important part to play in most businesses, but it's the actual collaboration of the journey management or the I'm English, I can't say the word, operationalizing.
Operationalized.
Thank you.
There you go.
Of customer experience across the organisation. I think that's the key one of the key challenges.
Yep.
And also, I think just a good old North Star, having if you can't break down the silos, at least have them look at the same sort of goal and see this is what we try to achieve. And you may have different pictures of what that looks like from your point of view, which is necessary because you do work with finance or product or service or whatever. But at least sort of again back to the strategy, you need to emphasize that if you don't know what customer experience, the desired customer experience in your company looks like, then no silo is going to be able to sort of work towards it. And then also if you don't define it properly enough, then all the silos are going to make different versions of what it looks like, and then again it's just going to be running around in circles like somebody said before today. So
we've also been talking about this term that we've I don't know if we've created
I think we
it,
adopted
but
it from
we've
online.
adopted it. CX washing, which is this concept, and this is a typical problem because marketing do an absolutely fantastic job. They're really great at understanding their customers, at designing the brand platform, the campaigns, everything for the customers. But if we do not have an overall vision or strategy for how to implement what it is they are promising and communicating across all of these channels that we now have that we communicate to our customers with, then we end up with this problem of actually having a facade which is just for PR, and we're actually CX washing. We're saying we're customer centric, but then and we've started doing a little self-study of this, and there's so much evidence out there that this is what's happening.
And it happens by coincidence as well, right? It's a lot of companies, they
don't know,
they want to be customer centric, they really want to be focusing on the customer, but you start in the wrong end, and you start by talking about how customer centric you are and how much you love your customers, which may be totally true, but if you don't manage to sort of live up to that reputation that marketing has created for you, again, the pitfall is quite high. And the second and the third date is, back to the dating analogy. I don't know why I fell into that track, but here we are. I think everyone can relate to it somehow at least. But so CX washing happens, I think, some people use it quite cynically to sell more, but some companies actually really try, but they fail. And, start with doing the job first, and then you can sort of, if you have something to show to, then use that in the marketing and not just invent stuff that you would like to see happening.
Yeah, I really like the term CX washing. I'm going to steal that one in studies, because that's what I also see is that like a lot of the kind of organizations that in a strategy, it's difficult to say that the customer experience or the customer is not important. We are all here to serve customers, so often it kind of flies into the strategy. But then when you start asking, so what like actual decisions are you making, and like what kind of changes have you been doing since you like launched that? It's very kind of empty. And that's where journey management often is. I use that as a way to kind of start talking about journey management. So how about if you operationalize your kind of customer experience?
How does it look in that? That stage of the journey. How does it look in that stage of the journey? What do we have to do to deliver on what it is we're saying at the start of
And I also think, every management group should, if you have to make cuts or if you have to make decisions, at least ask the question in the room, how is this going to affect the customers, and how is it going to affect, our reputation? When we having said this, making this decision now, how is this going to be? Because sometimes I think it's just lack of consciousness around decision making. Because when we have to do cuts, we have to do them fast. We have to do right. So.
Well, let's spin it a bit. So we've been discussing now a lot about the challenges, But you also, because you interview a lot of people who are very focused on this area. So what are the kind of the latest and greatest things that you hear, or the stories that you want to kind of share for the others on customer centricity part?
I think the companies who enable their employees who work towards like face-to-face or at least one-to-one with customers to enable them with a mandate or even a power to make decisions. You know, there's it's been said that disobedience creates the best customer experiences. So when a customer service rep goes out of their way to help someone, it's a little outside of their mandate, but they do it anyway, then that's when the magic is being created. And I think that's all about empathy. So sort of planting the seed of empathy in the organization and empowering. You know, John Sills, who's been with us for quite a few events, and he's also been a guest at the pod, he says, you know, if in doubt, be human first. And I think if you can sort of plant that into your culture, that's a really good starting point, actually, to create a customer-centric culture. And then after you applaud the reps or the employees that, you know, take that step, and even if they may not have the mandate, then so I think that's where we've seen, at least in my opinion, the best examples of you know, great stories that have gone viral on LinkedIn and given brands actually very good promotion.
I think some of the other attributes of a customer-centric company, of course, the culture and the culture, that's when you actually also think about, okay, empowering the employees. It's this whole mindset. It stems down from the top management that we truly want to be customer-centric, and they act as they say. So I think that's definitely another point.
And then just to sort of speak against what I said earlier, because we also have the companies who just go straight to solving the problem. Like, simple example, Oda, for instance. You know, the driver may be unpolite, they may be late, but they deliver your groceries on the door. I don't have to take my 7-year-old twins screaming to the store because I can get it all. So it's just, they fix a problem for me, and then the whole sort of, you know, it would be great if they were nice on top of it, but even if they may not be, at least they've solved a problem that for me has a huge impact on my everyday life. So there are different ways of doing it, but that's more product related. So if you have a really good product, maybe you don't have to be that good with the human touch, but if you are in general operating with a lot of customers like telcos, the empathy thing should be a huge part of it.
And it's difficult. Like it's like a lot of like good customer experience examples they are a lot about driven by the human experience, but it's really difficult to find the digital kind of replica of that. Like, what are have you found any kind of companies that are doing it digitally, like really good customer experience?
Have we now?
Great question.
I don't think we've ever had the same example from our guests. No one has ever mentioned the same company twice. I think like 2 guests have never emphasized the same. But then again, our guests are from different countries and different. But I think, you know, the industries that we've touched on is telecom, it's airlines, and it's, I guess, in general, retail stores. That's sort of the industries that we've had examples from. But there's not really one big, shiny company out there.
No. I think another thing...
we haven't found it.
No, I just wanted to go back to the attributes slightly. It's, of course, those companies that actually understand their customers and truly understand their customers, as Vida was talking about earlier as well, that, you know, you do have to... Again, back to John Sills, he talks often about we very often as companies try to understand our customers at the thin end of the wedge, and he sort of shows a wedge where at the thin end, that's where the customers are in interaction with us. But then if we think about the jobs to be done, the wide end of the wedge, the wide end of the wedge, that is where we can truly understand our customers, what it is their needs and their true jobs to be done. And then, of course, once you understand your true jobs to be done, you will then understand what type of experience you need to design for. And I think the customer-centric companies that are really proving to be winners, they've really done that work very well. VIPs, you don't have that much emotional sort of experience, but they've really understand the jobs to be done, and that's then a great digital experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think they're not around anymore, but Flyr, the airline, who were, in the beginning, and they didn't even have, their app wasn't fully developed, their whole service wasn't fully developed, but they were so customer-centric from start.
Yep.
And, one thing they nailed, amongst other things, but this one thing that I experienced myself was how they were able to communicate. You could chat with them on Messenger and then go over to email, and they would still keep track of the whole dialogue. So just sort of having a focus on that when establishing their systems and tools to sort of provide the customer experience that they wanted is this consciousness around what kind of mindset are our customers in. And it's also a big difference, in an insurance company. If your phone was stolen, that's one thing, or let's do the AirPods were stolen, that's a little less sort of stressful compared to if you have a big water leak in your house, You cannot respond equally to those two. So if you have a framework for how to respond to a customer, it's not going to be working in these two different cases, even if it's insurance and even if it's the same customer service and it's the same. Yeah. So it's all about understanding the variations within and journeys, basically all the sub-journeys that we discussed today.
I always thought about like that, like for like a customer to be kind of feel that it's really appreciated. It's like today, it's like we talk about a lot about the personalization, but I think we still have the hygiene level is to be reached, that when I kind of interact with the brand, regardless of the channel, I'm recognized and I'm known, so that I don't need to explain again and again what's my issue, what I've been doing, and whoever is serving me or what digital service is serving me actually understands me. That's a really good starting point. Yeah. And on top of that, you can then start kind of doing what AI will enable us to do, personalization and everything. Good. So we've been discussing about journey management whole day. I have a lot of different kind of case studies and presentations about that. Like, what is your perspective on that when it comes to customer centricity and customer experience management?
I think journey management is a necessity for companies today, and it is the, what should I say? My perspective it is the glue that helps us to operationalize the way we work with customer experience. It's the glue that helps us to work cross-functionally across the silos. It helps us to navigate this whole hugely difficult realm of omni-channel experience. And you do need a structure. You do need to have a structure so that you can actually work proactively and effectively through making the right changements at the right time. And so it's the operationalizing of customer experience.
I couldn't agree more on that.
And I think it's also important, the customer journey and the customer or the journey mapping and the journey management as well helps us combine the outside-in perspective with the inside-out perspective. So talking about design, there's always the outside-in, and we really want to be on the customer side and on the outside of the journey to understand how do they experience this. But to be able to sort of, if we're even able to design experiences, that's also a big question that we've had. Can you really design an experience for someone, or is it just purely up to them how they're going to perceive what you're trying to do? But I think the journey management enables us, at least to a certain point, and maybe to where we need to be when it comes to managing those expectations and combining the outside in and the inside out, which I think is crucial, because it's not, like Janneke is talking about, it's not about just being nice to the customers. We're talking about mutually sort of getting value for the customers and for us as a company. But if you're going to be doing that, you need to organize it in a systematic way. So mapping is here to stay.
And it's great to see that there are tools that are making this easy to do. I think there's very many of us here who have been mapping for quite a long time on
in Excel.
Excel workshops, Miro, which is all brilliant. But the problem is that these journeys are there. They are going to evolve. They're going to change. We are going to need to make new optimizations. And the ability to have a management platform that will ease that work. I mean,
Yeah.
it's horrendous trying to go back to an old Miro map that you've done and find out, okay.
Yeah.
So it's really nice to see that these tools are coming along and enabling that work, making it easier.
Yeah, and I mean, your customers' perception aren't going to be a static picture either, right? It's going to evolve from day to day, depending on, you know, weather or whatever sort of impacts the journey. So you have to have a tool that enables you to sort of stay on top of it, no matter what comes in your way. And we may not be all the way there today, but I think what we've seen from today is we're approaching that sort of world where this is possible with AI and technology. So it's exciting to see. Also a little scary, but
Yeah. I don't know whether you have tried, but I have tried to create journeys with AI just from transcript, and it is scary how well it works. To me, the mapping, when it was first it was the beautiful artworks that we did under the walls, and we marveled around how beautiful they were. We used to have illustrators who were just creating those, and it was then clients usually wanted to have them in their office and so on. Then COVID came, everything moved online, and we started using Miro, but it was still the same. Snapshot of a moment when the research was done, and the moment it was created, it started to lose its relevance over time. And now these
tools
enable us to integrate live data sources into those, and it's really breeding thing. So it's definitely making a difference on that.
What's your take on
see, now she's going to the host, right?
Yeah. I'm intrigued to know.
You didn't like this,
did you?
you?
You've worked with Journey management and JourneyOps in many years. Are you still doing workshops?
Yeah. It doesn't remove the need to do collaboration with different stakeholders. But I think the difference is that it used to be a lot of the designers workshopping around. Now we try to bring the business stakeholders and the data people, and let's bring all the people in the same room. And that's where I there might be some difference of opinion, but I honestly think that you should start with the multidisciplinary team, not create something on a silo and then try to sell it, but create it together, because then you need to also have empathy to the other roles. What do they need? Somebody was mentioning that in their presentations, how can we help journeys to do your job better as well? But nothing is going to remove the workshops.
Good question, John. Good question.
AI is not here yet. Okay. Hey, then the most important question that I have today is that with many of the discussions, if you have had today, is how do we convince our people, board and whoever, to make the decision and start moving in this direction. So overall, thinking about customer-centric initiatives, how do you get the funding for that? How do you get the commitment from the decision makers?
Be brave enough and talk to top management. I mean, I work with a lot of customer experience managers and actually coaching them to have that conversation. And we've talked about it, actually having a qualitative research internally in your organization. I think the clue is actually finding out and understanding what does the company need. You know,
what does management need? What is it that they want? What is their job to be done? And start there. And I also think our industry, especially when it comes to insights and analysis, we need to get better at quantifying the value of what we create. So instead of, and this is from way back, a customer experience director, I think at Storebrand. I call him Bradley Cooper, but that's not his name. It's Bradley something else. But he said, we try to measure this in rainbows and unicorns, and it just stuck with me because that's what we keep trying to do. But we need to start using real numbers. And then we keep talking about, the ROI all the time. And we've also introduced a new sort of, well, maybe not a new term, and we didn't invent it ourselves, but we talk about COI, which is the cost of inaction. So I think, taking that to management and saying, look, what is your job to be done? Let me help you with that. And let's see if we can find a way to improve the customer experience alongside that. Because there is a mutual sort of value to be picked there. You just need to find it. And, starting by looking for that. You'll find the win-win cases first. And then, when you solve a few of those, maybe you get to solve some cases that are just for the customer. But then again, they will be loyal and, you got the whole thing swinging. So, but you need to prove that what you're doing makes sense other than just feeling good. Because feelings, it's important, but it's not going to take you all the way. So.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I think the hit that we are taking now, that there's been this economic downturn, there's like, at least within my network, a lot of the people have been like laid off and they are looking for jobs. And I don't have any kind of statistics or anything, but partly I think it's the reason is that we've been sitting in the ivory tower, like saying that you need to understand customer is important, but not really stepping down to understand that, okay, how do we connect this with business?
Yeah.
So instead of waiting others to come to our world, we need to go to their world, like you said. And I really understand how can we help you to kind of succeed in your side as well. Yeah.
Yeah, because we know if they may not see it right away, and this is a little silly because of course they do at some extent, but you know, we know that having a happy customer is not going to be bad for business. We know that, but we just need to make them understand that in their language.
Yeah.
I suppose.
Absolutely.
As easy or hard as that may be.
Yeah. Good. Well, hey, we are about to wrap up. Any final thoughts on like what's the future of customer centricity?
I think what we talk about is that our job's not going away.
Yeah, that's a good start.
Because, what is the future of customer centricity? Thankfully, there is absolutely no doubt about it that that companies and the awareness in all layers of the organization is growing, that we need to work in a customer-centric manner. And again, in all layers, many are looking to find out, okay, what does this mean? What do I need to know? We still, I have the feeling we're not immature at all, but we are still at the start of this journey. So, I mean, we know from the figures that customer satisfaction is at a low, which is terrible, but it's great because think of the opportunity and the potential that is actually out there for us. So,
there's a huge competitive advantage for those who embrace this. And it's always been, and we see companies as well failing or disappearing due to not focusing on these things. So, but also, you know, the way technology, AI is approaching, and those who adapt to that and in a sort of
human-centric manner.
Because we do believe that we're not going to be fully digitalized in customer handling or approaching anytime soon. But nailing that combination of technology and human focus is going to be crucial. And our phones, somebody said that on the podcast as well, like if you can't have it on your phone, it's not going to be relevant to us. So everything you create, everything you make needs to, you have to be able to sort of connect to it. So I suppose that's
good.
A few highlights.
Hey, let's open up like one or two questions from the audience for Merete and Joanna. Anybody? It's your chance to get on to the live podcast. Jochen?
I love CX washing. So how about like the underlying patterns behind this, right? What would define a company that is like doing CX washing versus those that you mentioned, like they tried really hard, they failed, but they are like not CX washing? Like any indicators that we should be looking at in our companies to see like, we're kind of CX washing here, guys.
The ones who talk the most about it are the ones you should sort of look into, because they're probably not as perfect as they claim to be. And my impression, now you correct me if you disagree or if you think I'm wrong, but if you really are customer-centric, you're not going to be bragging about it too soon. You may show to winning an award, you may show to something concrete that you've done, that you've achieved, but you're not going to just be stating, we are customer-centric, you know, that's... If you see that, you should be skeptical, I think. Yeah.
And I think some real concrete ways to discover this is, for example, they post customer first or best customer service before, during, and after. But then if you go and look on, for example, what are these forums?
I was about to say Yelp, but yeah,
not TripAdvisor. Yeah,
it's on the tip of my tongue. Trustpilot.
Trustpilot. If you go on Trustpilot, you can see 1-star scores time after time after time, and really critical feedback that gives full evidence that this is not customer first or best customer service for during and after. And then if you sort of look at the organization and see that, well, these customer feedbacks, they're going years back actually, and this is a brand announcement on their website that they've still got posted there, then they're customer washing, because they've had plenty of time to do something about it.
Yeah, there are quite a few examples. I'm not sure we should hang out
We're
specific
not
industries
gonna
or
hang out
brands today,
anybody.
but also if you talk to the employees, and even looking at the way employees, first, do they respond to these things on Trustpilot? If they're not present, then again, they don't care. So why would you trust them to be customer-centric? But also if they are present, then look at the way they do respond, because a lot of the responses you'll see is, so, hey, I tried reaching you, but you didn't call me back for 5 days. And then they'll get the response, oh, we always call back after 1 to 2 days, so I don't understand what's happened to you. You know, you'll find plenty of these examples. And again, sometimes it's a coincidence, sometimes it's just they're trying, but just be careful. I think, you know, in general, just be careful talking about how customer-centric you are until you can actually prove and have a track record of being it.
But maybe talk internally. That's the aspiration, so that everybody gonna get.
And if you're going to be this bragging about how customer-centric you are, then you should also be transparent on the stuff that you're not as good at. So, you know, it's the whole human touch again, I guess, the empathy and the integrity of what you do.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hey, I want to thank Joanna and Merete. It was really a pleasure to interview you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
So thank you for joining. And like I said, like it's a fantastic podcast. So subscribe, and you can hear. How often is it? Like
it's every week.
Every week, yeah.
Seasonally, it's every week. So if you have a sort of guest growing in your tummy and you want to attend our pod, please reach out. If you know someone you would like to hear on the pod or see, because it's actually on video now. Don't hesitate to reach out. We are more than happy to have more guests in and talk to different people in this sphere of customer centricity.
Okay. Well, hey, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.